What's up, DAW Nation? Welcome back to another episode of Behind the DAW. And in this week's episode, we have Jack Ramsey, also known as Skybreak. This is a huge milestone for me. Jack's such an amazing man, such a manly man, a man's man. Man, he's one of my absolute favorite producers. Do I say that about everyone? I don't know. But in this week's episode, we're going to be talking about things like how to stop starving your sound, meaning to feed your sound. How do you find the pieces of art out there that truly feed your soul so that you can create better music? We're also going to be talking about something else. We're also going to be talking about how ADHD can be an absolute superpower in creating music, or it could be a creative wrecking ball. We're also going to be talking about what you should do when the business side comes into stark contrast with the creative music, artistic enjoyment. I still don't have a word for that. But when those two concepts come clashing together, what do you do? And one of the final things that we're going to talk about is the absolute lie, the absolute fallacy, maybe, the absolute misconception of hustle culture and how that does not make you better. It does not make your music better. It does not make your business better. So make sure to stay tuned for all that. And by the way, if this is your first time here, my name is Wyatt Troy, and this is a podcast where we interview music producers, singers, songwriters, music industry experts, and everyone else that relates to that on an emotional, philosophical, branding, marketing, and music business basis. Basically, we cover everything that you need to know for your music career here, except the technical side. You know, Ableton, FL, Logic, Serum, as though Serum's a DAW. Anyways, we cover all of that stuff over on our In the DAW series. Go check that out. And in every single episode, we give away a free download, usually a sample pack, a preset pack, something like that. And in this episode, it actually comes from his new song, Star Cannon. You can grab that pack down in the description, or you can head on over to dawnation.net/starcannon. If you enjoyed this episode, then you are going to love The School Based by AU5. This is his definitive sound design masterclass, where he is going to teach you his sound design system that has taken over 15 years to create. He's going to teach you his sound design system of creating an unlimited amount of sounds, rhythms, textures, bassers, blasters, leads, literally any sound that you can think of, and help you to create your own sound every single time, no matter what's going on in your life, no matter how stressed you are, or what equipment you have or don't have, or anything like that. It is absolutely fantastic. It's the same system that he has used for 15 years. I'm pretty sure I already said that. But if you're interested in joining the School Base with AU5, there is a link down in the description, or you can head on over to dawnation.net/schoolbase. But Daw Nation, with all that out of the way, with all that said, let's go behind the DAW with Skybreak. I want to welcome you to another episode of Behind the DAW. Today, oh my goodness, my excitement is through the roof. I haven't been this excited since I've had my firstborn. Today, we have Jack Ramsey, also known as Skybreak. How you doing today, man?
I'm doing incredible. I'm excited that you are as excited as having your firstborn. I hope you're not as terrified as me about one day prospectively having a firstborn.
I am. I'm terrified inside. I don't want to screw this interview up. I want Oh, no, I'm so excited. Everyone's excited. Everyone knows who you are. Did you know, fun fact, side quest to this conversation, we did not plan on talking about this. Skybreak helped us design a lot of the logo reveals for the Was It You walkthrough with AU5, Matthew Steeper, and Haley. And how many years ago? 20 years ago? When was that? 2000?
Like 4-ish years ago? Because I remember that's when he put out. Yeah, that's a bit silly, isn't it? Yeah, I mean, you guys just kind of already had the logo reveals made, and then you were like, hey, like, you're similar enough, which, by the way, this is like the greatest honor of my life. You're similar enough in terms of sound design palette and skills to AU5. Like, you should soundscape these reveals. So that's what I did.
I remember in the what was it, the Bowtie interview? The
Bowtie Media?
Yeah, the Bowtie Media one. You were kind of talking about how you're the Gen 3 of that. Like, what was it? AU5 was Gen 2, you were Gen 3, and someone else was Gen 1.
Yeah, it was the show with Flux. So yeah, it was like Flux Pavilion Gen 1, like AU5 Gen 2, me Gen 3.
How true that is. How true that is. Not to say that you have to be the next the generation of AU5, but you guys, you fit so well together. Anyways, it made sense for you to do the logo reveal. You did a fantastic job. You also, fun fact, I don't know if anyone anyone knows this. I remember when I released the Widow sample pack, I sent the samples over to you and I'm like, can you make a song? I'm too busy. You remember that?
Yeah. Did you end up using that?
I did. It's on the sales page for Widow. It is so good, dude. You crushed it with that. And I colloquially, what is the word, Jack? Help me out here.
Colloquially. I don't know. We're both probably going to use a lot of vocab words that neither of us can pronounce. That's like my toxic personality trait.
Ain't that the truth? But colloquially, we'll pretend that's correct. I see it as my first collab with Skybreak. You know, that song that we have with Widow. I have that to brag to my wife about. She thinks I'm cool because of it. And so, so Jack, we've introduced you. People know who you are. You're fantastic, and the people have been waiting. The people want to know. The people are dying to know. What is one of the worst decisions that you have made for your music career?
I was thinking about this on the train the other day because I was prepared in advance. And I came to the conclusion a couple of years ago, I was offered to play a show at Nintendo New York. Like the store. It was going to be sick. I have this crazy Instagram DM where it's like, Nintendo New York, yo, like, we have a lot of fans that like you. Like, do you want to play a set here? And I was supremely excited. My inner child was just roaring. But at that point, I think it was like 2022, 2023, I was kind of like on a roll in the show world, starting to do more shows, starting to like up my booking fee. And I let the business end of me overtake the inner child. And I asked them for money. And what they offered me wasn't enough compared to like a regular show fee or whatever. So we ended up rejecting the offer, and I regret it every single day. Do you know what I mean? Because what I didn't realize at the time, and what I've come to realize now, and what I've been trying to do more, is most fans of your music don't really care how much you're making. In fact, most promoters probably don't really care what you're making per show. But what fans will remember is the experiences that you've provided for them. And to me, I think a show that I earned $3,000 for locally in New York at some bar, let's say, I don't know, or some like club, 1,000 cap venue, whatever, that's not going to have created the same memories for myself and the people around me, and the same excitement for myself and the people around me than that show would have done. And, you know, we lost the offer. We didn't end up doing it. And I was gutted, you know, and I'm still gutted. You know, like, imagine what the trajectory would have been. That would have been like EDM history, but I let the business side of things take precedence over a genuinely cool thing like that. And I think mentally I've opted to myself not to do that again. I don't think that's I feel like there are worse decisions I've made for my career, in that, you know, maybe I lost a bunch of money one day, or maybe I made some call to release with one label over another, and that ended up not hitting the right audience. But I think in terms of like what was bad for my soul, that definitely comes to mind.
You could have played it. I'm not going to rub it in. Don't rub it in, Wyatt. Don't be.
Please don't. I think about it often.
Dude, well, to be fair, that is a struggle that I have heard time and time again. Is you are not alone. You are not alone with that, right? And that balance, that business and I guess what's the other side that we're talking? The creative, the artistic side, the
not even the artistic side. I think just the excited side. Do you know what I mean? It's very difficult when you work in a field like the music industry for a multitude of reasons. But I think for me, separating the business and the side that excites you is the toughest part. And sometimes there's these rare scenarios where they just work perfectly in harmony. But if you let yourself seep too much towards the other, one will spark regrets financially, and one will spark regret like spiritually. And it's always about finding that halfway point.
Playing devil's advocate, do you have an example of the other side happening, where you leaned into something that you felt excited about but didn't make sense on the business side, and after you're like, should I have done that? I don't know. Like, is there anything on the other side?
It's funny because I feel like every time I've done that, I've come out okay on the other side, but I know that's not always the case. So I'm trying to like dust my brain for it. Oh, I do know. I know exactly what. When I made my Lost Lands 2024 set with Ace Aura, he was finishing up his ephemeral EP or whatever, and I had a little bit more spare time. I was also going through like a breakup or some personal life things, so I needed like a thing to just do, like a task. So when you get a festival offer like Lost Lands or Lost in Dreams or something that's very catered to a specific genre of EDM, like Lost Lands, you know, it's the headbangers, it's the heavy people, it's the, you know, the rhythm kids and the Excision fans, and the Stronics are like Lost in Dreams. I would play a lot more of my melodic stuff. I'd do a lot of like vocal mashups, but like kind of still convince people to know who I am. I got cocky in this time, and I made a set exclusively catered for Ace Aura and Skybreak fans, you know? And I want to say from like a soul perspective that every show should be like that for me. You know what I mean? Like just making it absolutely, you know, jam-packed and giving someone like my wholest, most personal self. But the reality is when you're a smaller artist like me or Eric and you're playing on a big festival like Lost Lands where you're playing to people that don't know who you are yet, you've kind of got to ease these people into a thing, like into what you're doing, right? So I wouldn't say the set went bad at all. I think people were into it. You know, people were headbanging, people were great, but I had imagined this dream reality where, you know, we're in this 360 stage. It's just jam-packed with everyone wearing our merch, everyone singing along every song. And that just didn't happen. You know, like it was a very fine performance, no major ups, nothing went wrong, you know, and I played all the songs I wanted to, but I had spent hundreds of hours on this set. And just did not play it to the right audience. And we reused it a couple times we altered it a little bit, but we reused it a couple times when we did back-to-backs on the Sabai tour last year. And just same deal, like the songs that went really well were the ones we expected to go well, like the vocal mashups and the more melodic tracks. But, you know, when I was premiering some stuff from my new album, Half Blood, and it didn't go nearly as well. But so I was like crashing out about it. But again, I can even find a silver lining here because I had made all these edits, all these mashups, all these things that meant a lot to me. And then, you know, I just played in Japan for the first time last month with Chime Harvey. And we sold out Tokyo and we 90%, I think, sold out Nagoya. And it was just completely jam-packed with the types of fans that do love us, do know everything. And I felt like a celebrity. Everyone was singing every single song. It was the exact crowd reaction I would have wanted. We had a meet and greet line afterwards that was a whole hour long. And even still, it's been, as of recording this, like a month since the show. I'm still getting tagged on Twitter with photos and people saying this was the best show I've ever been to. And I'm like, that's the moments I want to create. But to get there, sometimes you just need to not listen to your artistic self and you just need to do something that eases people into the stuff that you're doing. Like still put yourself out there and give them your rawest self, but do it in a way or put it on a plate that they know how to enjoy. So then when it is your time to do a Tokyo show and a headline show and you're doing all the pull, you can do whatever you want. You can give them the version of you that is the purest, that is the rawest, and they'll just eat it up. So it's that delayed gratification. So that would be me listening too much to my artistic self. But again, in the end, it did get to a good point, but we're still working on getting Tokyo shows in the States. I like to refer to the Tokyo show as like the new standard for me, like the perfect show.
I have an idea of how to take this and it's going to tie to video games. You're going to love it or hate it. I'm not sure. It's one of those. It's one of those two. But Daw Nation, make sure to stay all the way to the end because we're going to be asking Jack the inverse of that question at the end, which is what's one of the best decisions that he made for his music career. The business side and the excitement, creative, artistic side, whatever you want to say, right? We kind of have this tension between the two things, right? Where this is a business, you know, you run it like a business, you provide for yourself financially, you hire your team, you have to provide for them financially. And so in a way, here's how the video game stuff ties into it. You have a little skill tree, right? We're turning into an RPG. And sometimes you have to upgrade the business part of the skill tree, and sometimes it's more of the excitement or the artistic side of the skill tree. And I think where the tension comes in is when you have to choose, because ideally it would be you're upgrading them both simultaneously, you're keeping them very balanced. But then there comes these times when you have to make a choice. You're like, oh man, am I going to really level up my artistic, creative excitement side, or am I going to level up the business side? You see where I'm going with this? Do you see? Yeah. Do you see how this? Okay, cool. So, where's the question in that? Where am I going with that? That's just an idea. I guess we'll start with that. Is that a pretty good idea? I mean, is that something that we can roll with, or what do you think?
I don't think it's necessarily as simple as that. I think, you know, there's obviously moments where you have to make a choice to listen to your business instinct and listen to your artistic instinct. I wish it was as linear as an RPG system. I'm playing Stardew Valley right now. That's like my big thing. My girlfriend is like obsessed with this game, and unfortunately now I am. There are many nights where I'll work like 16-hour days in the DAW on Patreon content, just grinding. And it's like I've been awake since 10 a.m. or something, and then it's like 1 a.m, and I'm like, oh, I can either go to bed with the knowledge that I've worked all day and not played any video games, or I can like just up my sleep a little bit more and sleep knowing that I had a little bit of self-care. So anyway, that's like a side tangent. I feel like the difference with that is like you're leveling up your skill tree by simply existing, by doing your things. You know, you are going to get better business instincts as you make these decisions and get uncomfortable. The same way that, you know, when you're learning how to make music, you know, you don't get worse. I mean, the only way to get worse is through overthinking and, you know, leaning too much into your ego and emotions. That's how you get worse at production. But it's like, realistically, with every song you make, you're learning what to do and what not to do. So those are leveling up. There wasn't really like a question, so I'm like trying to figure out exactly how to answer. But I guess those are my initial thoughts upon hearing that.
You're right, and that was totally unfair for me to throw that over to you because there wasn't a question. It was just a concept that came up. Something that's very hopeful about what you just said is by virtue of you just showing up, the skill tree enhances, right? The skill tree gets better, right? It doesn't matter if we're talking about you getting in the DAW, right? You just by virtue of you showing up and playing around in the DAW, figuring out how things are, the skill tree levels up. By virtue of you just showing up to the show to play it, showing, you know, reading through the contract that you're supposed to sign, you know, whatever, just by that, it levels up. Is that something that I was hearing you say? Is that correct?
You are leveling up. I think it's also important to make sure you're surrounding yourself with good people that are at your level or like just above you, so you can go to them for advice for the really difficult things. I'm currently running into that point now, but like whatever. Yeah, I mean, I think just by showing up, you do intrinsically get a little bit better. Like, I'm not a machine. I'm not always inspired to sit down in my DAW and write a full song, you know? But if I let things that are coming to me just naturally flow through my fingertips, then I am improving, you know? Like, I used to bog myself down so hard with ulterior motive, like, especially around when I wrote Moonglow EP, I was like seen as this color-based god and like, oh my God, I'm touring now, so I have to make songs that are like simultaneously good for shows, but also next level production and this. And it's like, any seconds that I'm spend doing anything else is like wasted time while some kid gets better than me at doing that. But that was supremely unhealthy, and it sent me into like one of the worst mental health crises ever, to the point that I had to like take a step back from touring and like fall back in love with making music. And I've kind of come to the conclusion now that if you write whatever you want to, you're just naturally going to get better when it's time, or when you're inspired to make something that fills all those criteria. Like last night, it was like 11 p.m. and I had finished up a couple lessons or whatever, and, you know, again, we're going back to Stardew Valley. That's my hyperfixation now. I got really inspired by the music that plays in the mines. So I just was tinkering around with some Serum 2 parameters or whatever for like an upcoming pack that I'm making. And I played a little melody through it, and I loved the way that it hit the delay. So I was like, oh, let's make something out of this. So I made this like 70-second, you know, cave theme loop. That's what I've called it. And it's just this lovely, gorgeous indie game soundtrack. And it's like, I'd love to be an indie game composer. That's ultimately like my retirement plan. But like, you know, I'm not there yet. So there's no practical reason for me to make that. No ulterior motive. But, you know, I was doing a task and it inspired me. And now I know how to make that. And now I know somewhere in the deepest trenches of my subconscious that when this series of notes hits this delay in this way, then it's going to evoke this emotional response. So maybe down the road in like 2 months when I'm writing a banger and I want, I don't know, I'm just talking about a theoretical here, but I want like a fill that's going to evoke that feeling of mystery. It's like, oh, I remember I made that cave tune all the dust years ago or whatever, like, and I did this thing. And you can also always, just when you're having these like screwing around and finding out sessions, you can always save what you're doing, whether that be like the way that your drums are hitting, whether that be, you know, the serum patch that you use to like make the ambience. I've been saving channel racks recently, especially in like vocal mixdowns or like the tedious, you know, that gets you like a nice starting point. You can even just bounce out the stems of what you're doing and drag them in later. I'm sorry, I'm yapping a lot, but like another story. In this instance, there's a track off the album I would have just dropped last week when this came out called Star Cannon. And the intro and drop are two completely different songs, but they were just like the same key. So I exported one and imported it into the other and then tinkered some elements to make sure it was more cohesive. So there's no such thing as wasted time. The only wasted time comes when you bog yourself down with all these expectations of making this perfect project that requires all of these things to go right, and just getting more and more frustrated and not coming up with any good results. You know, if you just listen to your intuition, you are making progress, I think.
I think that was a fantastic answer. I don't think you could have come up with a better answer from a question that I didn't ask in the first place. You know, with it. You made the comment in there, which was, I'm talking too much. And in real time, we could see your absolutely lovely trademark Skybreak ADHD brain going off. And I loved it. It was beautiful. And this is not something that is new. Anyone who's listened to your other interviews know that you've talked about this before. And there are a lot of people from DAW Nation that are watching this, that are listening to this right now, who have the same thing. I am of the opinion that we are either on the track to having it, all of us, or, we already have it. So tell me about that. How does having ADHD, there we go. How does having ADHD work with your music process? Is it a superpower? Is it a detriment? Sometimes tell us more about it.
It simultaneously sucks, but it's also cool. I have this, one thing that I've been doing to really help me out, Windows comes with this thing called sticky notes where it just appears on your page the second that you open your computer. And I've just got this list, and I've separated it by level of priority. So I've got the short-term tasks that aren't going to take me very long at the very top, and then the just long-form tasks at the bottom. But what the pattern that I've noticed is I've got these short-term tasks that I just bang out of the way, whatever, or it's fine. Or it's it's the medium ones that I can get out of the way, right? With the short-term ones, I don't know. For example, I'm doing a release party, or I will have done a release party at this point in Los Angeles by the time this came out. And I want to sell physical USBs because USBs have been a big motif in this album campaign. Just a USB I had my friend paint with the logo, and I'm hiding it in random places. And I have had it on my list for a week to order it. But the tasks that I need to get out of the way to order it, I found a company that'll preload it with data. And I want to do a thing where it's each USB has a different dub plate on it. It has the full album and then just an exclusive tune to almost subtly encourage people to leak it, right? But I haven't ordered it because I have to make those tunes, and that's scary. But I'm watching the days slowly tick down, and I'm oh my goodness, if I don't order this in the next 2 days, then it might not come in on time, or I'll have to order it to the venue. And I'm so in a way, stuff like that absolutely sucks. However, I think the superpower of ADHD comes in for example, just now, I was very enthusiastic about a thing. So I came to a lot of conclusions very quickly, and I was able to very clearly articulate it. I think at the end of the day, when you have ADHD, when things genuinely interest you to your core, it'll interest you on a level that other people might even find scary. I can sit here, I have sat here for 15 hours in front of a DAW and write an entire song in one sitting, mix, master, produce, everything. But if there's a task that's remotely outside of what my body is leading me to do, it can be excruciating. In a degree that people wouldn't understand. A lot of people could think, oh, ADHD people are so self-centered and lazy, but it's there's a concept called executive dysfunction. There are days where I am just paralyzed in my bed, just doom scrolling. I actually, Harvey put me onto this term called demand paralysis, something like that. But it's when so many things are demanding your attention, or everything is calling you to do this one thing. There's some stupid thing, demand avoidance, that's the word. There's this stupid thing in some of our neurodivergent heads that prevent us from doing exactly the thing that we need to do right now. And so you feel this guilt for doing the smaller tasks, right? For example, this USB thing is an amazing example, right? This is a thing that's going to take me a day or two, and it's really important. It's really top of priority. So I feel, obviously, I felt good enough to come on this podcast, but it's I feel guilty taking that self-care time of playing Stardew Valley, even if I know it's going to improve my mental health and not burn me out. Or, I've got a couple of official remixes that I'm doing. I should be working on those, but really I should be doing this USB thing. So I end up not working on what I need to do, but I'm also I would feel bad starting something else. So I end up doing these really low effort tasks doom scrolling, or make a preset, one singular preset, or stuff that's not fun, but also not productive because I would feel bad being productive in not the right way, you know? And that's stupid and it's dumb, but I can't help it.
My daughter and my nephew both have ADHD. My nephew is severe. Like it's you know, me and my wife and my sister and my brother-in-law, we just sit there and look at him just like, holy cow, you know, and he's just running back and forth and he's hey uncle, you know, and the way that I picture it is that your mental state, your energy is like, it's like buzzing, it's like vibrating, it's like you're like building, you're charging up, you're ready to go Super Saiyan, you know, you're like it's building. And let me know if I'm mischaracterizing this in any way, but it's like as soon as like you're building, and as soon as you see that clear pathway to where you need to go, you see exactly what you want to do or what you're interested in or whatever, dude, you just fly down there and you just, you know, you're blowing dust and dirt and debris everywhere as you're going there, and you get there as fast as possible. You're doing it, all the stuff. But from my understanding is even if you're buzzing with all that energy, you have all that built up, if you don't see the clear path to get down to that thing, then it's like all this energy just like stays with you and gets pent up. And so you try to find other little outlets to get it done. Right. I think, am I characterizing this correctly?
I feel like that's mostly correct. I think the inverse is also true. Do you know what I mean? Like, well, not even necessarily the inverse, but it's like, you know, having all that pent up energy, and it's like when there isn't a clear path, it's excruciating and your body can't cope. You know, and that's when you start to get these things where, you know, I sit in bed for 4 hours and just doom scroll because I'm paralyzed by these things that I have to do that might work. But it's like, yeah, I feel like that's a fair description.
Okay. Because I would also think that, you know, like if you're pent up and you don't see the path to get rid of that energy, that's when you'd start doing those smaller tasks that you're talking about, because you're trying to let that energy out. Like the example that you brought up with the USB-C, right? You pent up, you have this energy, but you don't see quite clear the path of what you're supposed to do with the USB-C. You're like, oh, I know this, but I got to do this first and blah, blah, blah. And so instead of, you know, shooting down that path, you start doing a little bit of this. You make the preset, you answer that email, you doom scroll, all that kind of stuff. You're trying to let the energy out in little bursts. Is that correct?
Yeah, I would say so. But then again, part of it comes with the societal guilt, you know, like the guilt that you feel for doing these smaller things. So sometimes you don't even send the email. Like it gets to the point for me sometimes where I can't do anything, you know, and that sucks. And I think that guilt is something that I personally need to let go of. And I've been making an effort to let go of, like that it's okay if there's something demanding your fullest attention right now, it's okay to do other things to get the energy back, so you find a way to like gun down that pathway.
When you figure out how to do that, man, you are going to be the savior of the EDM space, because we all struggle with that, and we all realize that we are supposed to feel that way. We're supposed to be okay with taking self-care. I don't know how to do this, man. I've been doing donation for almost 10 years. I work relentlessly hard, and anytime I take time for self-care, I'm just like, I should be working. I should be working. I should be grinding. How do you get rid of? Have you found a way to get rid of that?
I was gonna say one like minor way that I've been able to figure this out. I got this from my therapist. Again, I was in a really bad mental state, and I think 2022 was the worst. That was like right after Moonglow, when I was like the color-based god. I was talking about it before, but like, I was like, I can't even play video games. Like, I feel so bad. And so my therapist said to me, well, wait a second. Isn't all of your top streaming stuff like somewhat inspired by video games? And I was like, yeah. She's like, well, can't you view this as you consuming art to fuel your art? And I was like, wait, you're kind of right. So for a while, I don't really need to do this anymore. But for a while, I'd sit down and seek out these indie games that are considered art, you know? Like stuff like Outer Wilds. Have you played Outer Wilds? You would love Outer Wilds. It's so good.
I know. I started and then I got distracted with Dead Cells. Forgive me. I'm a sucker
Dead
for
Cells is not
sorry.
the worst game to be distracted by, but like...
yeah, that's right.
Yeah, like stuff like Celeste and, you know... Legend of Zelda. I did like a whole playthrough of all those games. Like these games that are extremely highly regarded, not only for just being fun, but also like a masterclass of, you know, art direction, music, curating of vibes. And I now view this as collecting inspiration. This was another point I wanted to get into later on. I was going to kind of use this as like a best decision, but I'll come up with a different one as well. But I find it really important to take specific time for music consumption. And I'm not talking about perusing SoundCloud looking for like the sickest dub plates to spin in your sets, or like looking for mix sound down ref tools or whatever. I'm talking about picking a genre that you are holistically unfamiliar with but have an intrigue with, and just taking a week or 2 weeks where you're not making music, you're just consuming as much as possible in the genre. That's what happened. That's how I wrote my album Half-Blood, you know? That was my inspiration. I had went to like a Hamdi set at Rampage 2023, and I was like, oh, I don't know any of the music that started this genre. I should change that. So I went back and I listened to all the old Big Apple Records stuff. I went through the SoundCloud likes of some of the artists that used to release on there. I looked up what their inspirations were. I listened to like Aphex Twin, Massive Attack, all of these UK musicians that are highly regarded in electronic music, that are known for making high quality art. And I was able to figure out what I liked and what I didn't like from that. Like, what parts of this offended me? What parts of this did I like? What parts of this did I connect to things that I did like? And it straight up made me write an album. And I think back about it and I'm like, that's what led me to most of my artistic epiphanies. Do you know what I mean? Like back in 2020, I used to deliver pizza. Before I started doing this music thing and students full time, I delivered pizza for like a local shop. It was a bit of an abusive work environment, but we don't need to talk about that. But I realized I was at my creative highest in 2020 because every night from 5 to 10 p.m., I was just driving around listening to all this music, and I'd be asking my friends for, playlists of music they rocked with. And so I discovered my love for Midwest emo, which led me to write like this remix I did for Crystal Skies a while ago and informed my music theory. Like I really love that stuff. What else did I listen to in that time that like shaped me? A lot of like the Gareth Coker soundtrack.
Time out. I'm sorry, that just connected with me. Did you just say Midwest emo?
Do you not know about Midwest emo?
What is Midwest emo?
Oh, it's a whole rabbit hole. It's it's a genre that started kind of in the 1990s of like these really cracked guitarists. Usually everything's recorded on like one tape recorder in some dude's garage. And it's just like the most insane guitar work you've ever heard. It's all really beautiful and it all has like the worst vocals of all time. And it's like, but it somehow works in its viscerality, but also its like technicality, So I feel like I applied that to my music in a couple different ways. But yeah, anyway, just going back to my point, like right now, my big focus, I've been listening to a lot of Black American music, like, because I feel like that's always been a soft spot. I grew up playing a lot of jazz and jazz bands and stuff. Actually, yeah, jazz fusion was the other. Again, that's like, I wouldn't have written Waterfall if I didn't have that period of time when I was delivering pizza, because I was listening to a lot of like Cassiope and T-Square and these Japanese jazz fusion bands that used music theory, and I figured out what resonated with me. And it led me to my own conclusions from that, So I think taking this time is so important for us as artists, because it's supremely easy to just get stuck in listening to the genres we're known for making. But then, it becomes homogenous. Like, what do you bring to the table if all you're consuming is what people in your exact same field are making, So that really helped me out. Again, right now I'm listening to a lot of Black American music. I'm listening to D'Angelo. D'Angelo, he's like a R&B person. He has 2 of the highest rated albums ever. Erykah Badu, I finally listened to her. I'm a big Tyler the Creator fan, so I watched some interviews with him. And this is another pro tip: if you ever want to subconsciously sound more like your favorite artists, find out what their favorite artists are, because chances are not many people do that work. So yeah, I found Erykah Badu through that. I've been really enjoying her stuff. D'Angelo, I'm not going to lie to you, there's a lot of it that I'm just not a fan of. Some of it I, as a white person from the Northeast, find boring or, a bit contrived. But but it helps me appreciate where the roots of the genre came from. And there's parts of it that inspire me in ways I didn't expect. It's like, it's a way to get to know your own preferences better when you listen to something that is so different from what you're making, and the type of music it'll inspire you to write in the end is just wholly unpredictable. So I think that kind of self-care is so important for good, high-quality artists, especially if you're going through writer's block. That's the first thing I'll always recommend to you. Like, pick a genre you have interest in but aren't super familiar with, and just like research the highest regarded albums and research the people you do know in the field and figure out what their favorite artists, what their inspirations were, and see what conclusions you come to by consuming the same material as them.
So the core concept there, right, which is you're feeding your creative soul in order to express your creative soul even more, right? And the great lie that it took me a very long time to understand. In fact, I would wager it takes most people a very long time to understand this. The creative lie is that you can create in a vacuum. The idea that is absolutely impossible, right? Even if you could convince yourself that to shut your life off for like 60 days, you're in your little box of a studio and you're just trying to produce and you're not listening to anything else to try to create something, that's still a disingenuous example, because you're going to be pulling from your past experiences. You're going to be pulling from the presets or samples or whatever that come from anything else or from other people's creativity, right? The idea that you can create in a vacuum is just, it's ridiculous. And so what you were talking about is actively leaning into that and being like, I am going to go look at other people's creativity to help generate creativity inside of myself. Is that what I'm hearing?
Yeah, similar to that. I think the important distinction is like, look for people that think very differently to you in their creative process and see what you pull and what you don't know. For me, it's more so like getting to know your own artistic palette. It's not so much about like expressing in the same way as them, but it's a way of getting to know yourself better in ways that you don't expect, right?
Has there been anyone, I'm sure there's been many, many examples where you've listened to someone or listened to a band or type of music, whatever, that did, kind of challenge some things for you or change your mind about some stuff. Has there been anything like that you've listened to and it was like a fundamental core moment where it completely changed your trajectory of your music, stuff like that? Is there anything like that that's happened?
Just like music that I didn't like that's like highly renowned, you mean?
It could be that, or it could actually end up being music that you enjoy, but it's in the activity that you were trying to listen to stuff that you normally wouldn't listen to. And after you listen to it, it was just like, oh my gosh, like I can't believe I could exist without this. Like, this is such a core part of me now.
Well, again, the Hamdi set at Rampage Open Air 2023 was certainly a big moment like that for me, because I almost didn't go. I was so exhausted. I was like whatever. Just I was going to like the regular dubstep sets and that I would have gone to, like whatever. I played like a back-to-back with Chime and Caval, and so I was like a little tired. My friends were like, "Oh, we're going to Hamdi," and I was like, "Oh, I know like one of his tunes, like whatever." And they're like, "No, like this guy's next up, like trust." So I'm like, okay. And I went, and it shaped my entire next 2 years of production. I was in a big creative rut at that point because, again, I was so focused on making color-based, this really big, powerful, energetic, emotional music with like not a whole lot of subtlety, or like a combination of not a lot of subtlety, but also infinite subtlety within each moment, right? And it's like, it challenged me because this music is like, it's three elements. It's just, hats and shakers, kick, snare, and like a bass and maybe like a vocal, and that's it. But it filled me with this viscerality just from the groove and the core elements. And I'm like, this is what I've been missing. This is the phase inverted version of my philosophy, right? And I'm like, what can I learn from this set? And that sent me down the whole rabbit hole that led to this album. So I'd say that was a very pivotal moment for me, just giving something a chance. And also, like, being in high school jazz band was another big moment for me, obviously. Like, I had exposed myself to a lot of, again, like old music with like, box recordings of someone like doing unspeakable things to an alto saxophone. and a lot of it was like, I can appreciate this from a musical perspective, in that it's very technical, it's very difficult to play, but like I don't rock with this. This isn't the kind of jazz that resonates with me. That tech flexy, look what I can do on the sax. It's like, it's fun in little doses, but it's not me. It's not what's sticking out to me. So I was able to find the type of jazz that I did like. And then now I go back and I listen to the Charlie Parker stuff that bothered me so much back in the day. And now I'm like, oh no, this actually, To answer your question, most truthfully, the Hamdi moment. But yeah.
So I think the advice that your therapist gave you, right? in business terms, you're doing what's called R&D, research and development, where you are taking time to go consume art or do something that is ultimately going to help your business, your art, your music in the long run, right? You're doing it. So at the time it was with video games. We were just talking about doing it with music, right? So if we look at the big overarching concept of going and partaking of art to make your art better, there's like little subcategories of that. You know, you talked about doing it by listening to other music. You talked about doing it by playing video games. Is there other things that you do that help that bigger, you know, consuming other art philosophy? Is there other avenues that you like to do that with?
I was going to say, like, to go down the other route and listen to the business side of my head, some things I like to do are like research what other artists I respect have done for their marketing. Like I think about the artists that I've fallen in love with, and I really think about, because it's easy to lose track of this, right? Like, how did you discover your favorite artist? You know, like, what moment did you discover, I don't know, like AU5, for example, with me. You know, he had released with Monster Cat when it was like supremely popping in 2014. I think the first tune I heard from him was Crossroad. And you know, and like that one I liked, but I like wasn't rocking with the dubstep stuff he was making at that point. But you know, then I continued to be reminded of him through his tutorials, the stuff that he did with you guys, certain other songs that he had done on Monster Cat and everything. And then I became a fan, and now I love everything he makes, you know, just because of the exposure, right? I'm trying to think of an artist in like a completely different plane. Porter Robinson. I like wasn't, this is so strange knowing the music that I make, but I like wasn't a Porter fan until Nurture Era, which is only like 2020, right? Which is crazy considering the music that I make and how intrinsic his sound is as an inspiration to me now. But like, I don't know, like I didn't really find out about Worlds, but the reason I found out about Nurture is because it had this sick fucking teaser that initially came out with like an all new visual aesthetic that was just so different from what everybody else was doing. People were sharing it around, and you know, I just stumbled upon it because it was a name I had randomly heard in the background, or like, just like how, like other artists. But you know, like every artist has a story about how you discover them, and you can figure out how you can create that story for someone else. You know, like for example, with Half-Blood, I've got a bunch of fans that already knew about me through, you know, my Monster Cat releases or my Disciple releases, or they may have randomly stumbled upon my set at some festival and like rock with what I was doing enough to like drop me a follow, and they've been like reminded of me since or whatever, or maybe a DJ played out their tune. But it's like, I wanted to do something that got people talking and do something stupid and brain dead that no one would ever in their right mind do. That was still thematic with my project. So I threw a show on the New York subway, which I multicammed, and it will have been out on YouTube for like a month by the time this came out. And I'm not saying that this video is going to do crazy numbers or even get people talking. Like, I can't guarantee that. But all I know is that somebody's much more likely to share a video of someone slamming UK bass, color bass on a moving subway car, which was done very run and gun style, by the way. Someone's way more likely to share that video than if it were just me standing in front of mini meters going, did I just write a banger? Or some visualizer that I commissioned, which is just like, I don't know, some pretty graphic with like text on it, you know? And again, you can't guarantee these things are going to work, but I think about how I discovered my favorite artist, and is that not the most ridiculous way to stumble upon someone? Like, it's ridiculous. So I do a lot of research and development in that regard of just looking up the artists that I look up to, and sometimes even the ones that like aren't that good at marketing. And I just recall where I discovered them, how they made me feel when I had no idea who they were. And I channel that into my own stuff.
I believe you shared a teaser of the subway, right? Is that right? You shared?
Yeah. At this point, as a recording, I've only shared one teaser, but I'm going to start blasting socials with it in the next few days. So,
because I remember seeing the teaser and I remember thinking, I'm like, dude, that is so smart. That is so smart what he did. You know, not in the sense of that you would probably gain a lot of followers from people being on the subway, but as far as content to market, on social media. Like, that is so smart to do something like that. I am curious. You're the business side, the marketer. You got the marketer Wyatt coming out. Why am I rubbing my fingers? I don't know. And so, but I'm curious. Have you found other ways to do? Have you seen what other people have done that are so super unique to get people to find them in this new social media age, this new digital age?
I mean, I'm a little biased because, he's my friend of 12 years, but I really love what Paper Skies has been doing recently. Like, he didn't announce his album with some random graphic last year. He climbed a crane and like flew a flag over Toronto. And it's not a post that like did insane numbers. Do you know what I mean? But that doesn't matter. You can let go of, this post only got 45 for 600 likes and I usually get 1K. You can let go of that knowing that you're doing something genuinely fucking cool. And those things like kind of compound, right? Other marketing techniques that like were cool. I mean, it's a couple of years old and it's not giant in the grand scheme, but like, when Xylent dropped We Are Dust in 2019, obviously, he initially teased it. People were excited because it's Xylent. He's this regarded figure. But I feel like the real deep emotional roots came in with the ARG that he did a couple days before release. He had the entire EDM nerdcore community at their computers trying to decode this puzzle to unlock a prize or whatever. I forget what the giveaway was, but the same deal, right? Like, that's going above and beyond and doing something that's getting people engaged, getting people talking, And even though that didn't do crazy numbers or get him all these shows or exist as this perfect opportunity to like capitalize, probably like he didn't make any money off it. He probably didn't gain many new fans, but what he did do was he deepened people's emotional connection with this project to the point that people are still talking about the album. I can't name you one other dubstep album, off the top of my head at least, that came out in 2019 that had the same impact or that anyone's still talking about in 2025. And Xylent's obviously, not the most alive project right now. He's much more focused on other things, I think. I think he's coming along with another album either this year or next year, I forget. But people still talk about it, Like the splash that left. So that's what I'm trying to focus in on, as well as, your typical growth marketing. I'm not saying mini meter style content is bad or, the clickbait things. I think it's still a very valid way to reach new people. But if you can do something that's so genuinely cool, people can't help but not pay attention to it. On top of that, I think you're in a pretty good place.
I couldn't agree more, man. I go back to what we were originally talking about at the very beginning, the little skill tree, right? If one of the subcategories of the business part of that skill tree is getting quantity of like a larger quantity of an audience or deepening the relationship of the audience that you have, right? And if you want to talk pound for pound, what is the best, because they're both important, but if you're talking pound for pound, what is the best thing to invest in? It's the deepening of the audience that you already have. So if you do something like how you're talking about with just say Paper Skies was the one who climbed the crane, right? Even though it didn't perform, it's not one of his highest performing things, it doesn't matter because the audience that he has is true fan base. The super fans, as we call them, they're going to remember that like, dude, he climbed a freaking crane. A crane, my boy, And
again, both are important, but like, I think in terms of long-term maintaining a fan base, like, there you go. Because I don't know. For example, I put up a post of like just the way that I made like a vocal chop for a song or whatever, and it got like 2,000 likes and got me like 100 followers. Like, yippee-ki-yay, that's awesome. But like, even if that got more views than the Subway rave post that I put up a few days later, it's like, which one are people going to remember? I think content has the potential to become extremely homogenous, and it is becoming homogenous, especially with the AI slop you're starting to see people put out. Or like everyone's doing a video of them at the top in their studio and mini meters, and then their DAW at the bottom. Like, did I cook? It's like everyone's doing that. Yes, it does well. It's something people know. You see that kind of post, you immediately know, oh, this is a dubstep artist, presumably, that's doing a thing. But like, I don't know. I could yap about this for a while, but
as of today, it would be the week anniversary, happy anniversary, of you releasing your new album, my boy. That is so cool. Let's hear more about it. Tell us the behind the scenes. Tell us some fun facts. Tell us, give us the lowdown, my guy.
Oh, it feels surreal. So yeah, Half-Blood is my take on fusing what I've been working towards for the past few years, the color base, the melodic, the emotion, with aspects of my production I hadn't focused on before, like groove and viscerality. And it's, I like to brand this as a sort of UK bass album just covered in paint, you know, like covered in colorful iridescent paint. It's diverse and it's emotional in ways that I don't think listeners would expect from this kind of album. I think it's unique. It started out as a little experiment. Again, I was talking before, you know, I went to that Hamdi show at like a creative rut, and then I was like, oh, you know, all cocky. Oh, I can make this. Like, and then I did. And I did it pretty successfully, but I had so much fun with it. And I was like, wait, this is really cool. I can actually say something with this genre. So I threw more things at the wall. I started consuming all the music, and I was like, okay, well, we'll make like an EP. This is some like side quest. Because I've wanted to write an album for a little while. My last album was Above the Clouds in 2019, which was like, it's kind of ratchet. I do like some of the songs from it, but you know, I hadn't quite figured it out yet. And it was before I started taking music more seriously as like a job or a career. So it's a little amateur-y, but I still do like it though. But nowadays it's like I wanted to write an album and it has to be this Botanica. It's gonna be like all Botanica nurture core, but like vocal driven, but also color based and crazy and whatever. And just like I had started it like 42 times and just none of them stuck. None of them were emotionally resonant. But so this EP was like the side quest I was gonna do before I write the album. And so I was just writing, and soon enough I had like 7 song ideas, and I was like really liking it. And, you know, and I was on top of I had a lot of like life improvements happen in 2024. Like, you know, I had finally gained enough confidence as a person to like start exploring the city with my friends. I joined like a hiking group, and I had, you know, all of my like non-music life things were beginning to level up. And I was just going out I was terrified of New York City until about 3 years ago. Like riding the subway sounded like a death sentence. But now it's like at this point I had people that I thought were safe and fun and cool and adventurous with me. And, you know, I just associate all of 2023 and 2024 with like late nights out, narrowly missing the last train home, you know, and, you know, going to these UKG and drum and bass shows and just making new memories and investing myself in the local scene I was so scared of for ages, right? So I began to have a lot of emotional attachment to this record. It felt like me on my and exactly like what I was writing. There's like little inside jokes in the album nobody's gonna get but me. Like on track 4, Anxiety, there's this little, I just want to talk to you, let me talk to you. It's sampled from this house song from like the 90s. I'm not a big house person. I like some house, but in terms of like the 9-minute long like tunes that just are background music, it's not really my thing. But my buddy Ryan, it really is his thing. So we were taking like a road trip down to Philly, and he like puts this 10-minute long song in, and it's just it was excruciating. Like he was just going, let me talk to you, I just want to talk to you, let me talk to you. And we're like, bro, how long is this tune? So it's like I snuck that in there, and there's just so many little personal splashes. Like there's a song where like I recorded a voice memo of just the London Underground, because I'm a dual citizen with the UK, which is why it's called Half-Blood, by the way. But it's like, just like the London Underground one day after I just like had a really fucking good day, and I just felt so good about myself. I'm like, I want to like remember this moment somehow. So I just hit record on a voice memo, and like, it's very narrowly layered in the background as like some subconscious thing. It very much just could have been some random vinyl crackle, but whatever. There's just tons of moments like that. And I got really attached to it. And then we were like, okay, well, we've got enough material for 2 EPs. Let's do like a Blue Line and Red Line. It's got like a Subway brand or whatever. Ultimately, I was like, no, this actually means a lot to me. And I feel like this is a record that hasn't been done like this before. So let's call it an album. And so that's what we did. And I'm so proud of the result. Like, it's different from what I was doing before. It's different from what I think people would expect from a Skybreak album, and different from what people would expect from a UK-based album, and different from what people would expect from a color-based album. And I really like, I think it wears its inspirations on its sleeve. A lot of Burial, a lot of Turnian sound, a lot of G. Jones, a lot of, you know, obviously the more traditional things I've inspired by, like AU5, Chime, Virtual Riot, right? Like it wears all these on its sleeves, but it's done in a way that I don't think anyone else would have come up with unless they had my life experience and they had my production style. And I love it. You know, I get like emotional talking about it. You know, I'm like, this is out there. I mean, it's not out there as I'm recording this, but now it's out there. And that's ridiculous. You know, I have, in a way that I was so myself with Moonglow and Lumina and these EPs back in the day, I'm so myself with this project. And it's going to hit who it'll hit. It's going to alienate who it alienates. But I feel like I've given something here that's like worth falling in love with the way that I fell in love with writing it. So
if I snap my fingers, right, go ahead and just do a nice little Southern Utah snap, send you back in time, you know, to when you very first started working on this album, and you're like, oh crap, I basically have to create the whole thing again. You keep all your memories, you keep all the things that you've learned. Is there anything different that you would do with this album? You know, is there extra songs you would add on? Is there certain, you know, things that you would avoid doing? Is there certain things you do more of? You know, like, you know, if you went back in time, how would you redo the creating the album?
To be honest, I don't think I'd redo a thing. I would not redo a single thing. I think this project is the result of the experiences and memories that I had while writing it. You know, like, it's the epitome. I think if I went in and tried to write a Half-Blood album after writing this Half-Blood album, it'd be completely different. And if I tried to write the Half-Blood album 3 years before then, it would have been completely different. You know, like, I really feel like this is just a transient moment, a transient feeling, a transient time of my life that I've just captured, you know? And I think if I went back and did it, I'd probably change everything because I'm a different person. I've lived the experiences, you know, and I've figured out which ones I want to make now. There'd probably be more love songs because I love my girlfriend, you know? But it would be introspective in different ways, and it would be banging in different ways. I'm almost glad I wrote it with the lack of experience that I had, because now that I know a lot more about the UK-based genre from now 2 years of giving it an honest shot and networking with the people out there, and like, now I know the rules. I know like what goes. And when I wrote this project, I didn't know the rules and I had to figure them out. And that's why it's unique. That's what makes it cool, right? So I want to, whatever my next project is, I want to lose myself like that again. Do you know what I mean? I've already got a couple ideas in my head of genres I want to attack, genres I want to fuse, genres that are inspiring me. Again, going back into the research and development thing, the types of music I'm unfamiliar with that I want to become familiar with, right? But I don't think I'd ever write Half-Blood again, you know? If I was set back in time, I'd be like, tough shit, let's make a new album.
If you think about it, whenever you make a song, it really is a snapshot of that time of your life, right? And you will never be able to recreate that ever again, because there's you have everything about you in there, your strengths, your weaknesses, your biases, your ignorances, your wisdom, your knowledge that you have right there. So by extension of that same logic, an album is a bigger version of that. It extends that time frame even more. So it's like it's an even bigger screenshot, if you will, of that time of your life. So you're absolutely right. Going back and recreating it, what a stupid question. Why? You can't, because by definition of that, it's who you are now, right? The word on the street is the rumors, if they are correct, is that you went to Blank's house and stole his plants, and you wanted to make a music video out of it, you know, with Street Garden. I'm joking, but you made a music video out of Street Garden. You got some fun things to tell us about it. Tell us about it, because you have a unique marketing strategy with this song. You know, this is totally pertinent to what we were talking about with unique marketing strategies. So tell us more about that.
Yeah, for sure. So Street Garden's like a really personal tune for me. It's actually a joke story. I got very inspired by Duskus with Healers. He did this like kind of Healers era, which is like this chill kind of house stuff, but it's got, again, that nice groove viscerality. Another great UK electronic musician or whatever. He did a tune with like Skrillex and Fred again last year, so he like popped off. But I was there first. I wrote this tune before the Skrillex one came out. But yeah, I just wrote this tune when I was at like a euphoric high in my life, and but it was like weirdly like somber and melancholic. So I was like, my life's like too good to write the lyrics. So then I went through like this weird, you know, relationship breakup thing. I was just cooked, and I'm like, oh, this is the time. And my ex always used to refer to our relationship as this like seed that we'd be watering. Like there were so many signs from the earth that this was just like not supposed to happen, right? Like life situations, value differences. It was long distance. It was awful, right? But every time I try to pull out, she's like, no, like we have to tend to the seed. We need to like water our tree and let it bloom. There's still like, we haven't bloomed yet, you know? So I was just stuck in it. And eventually it just got so bad that I had to cut it off. And it was me that did it. So this tune was very cathartic. I feel like I've never written a track before that's helped me process my own like, grief like that. But anyway, this tune was special. And I didn't do this with any crazy like marketing thing like the Subway rave in mind. I just did this because it was personal, but I wanted to make a music video around the track once I had written it and got amazing vocals from Lottie Jones on it and everything. So I was like, we've got this Subway theme. Why don't we just get a bunch of plants and just record this lyric video concept of like, it's all black and white to show some depressingness, but like the green of the leaves is the only thing that takes color. So your fullest attention is drawn to it. And it flips between these two scenes of like, I had my friend Aubrey Pasteur. I'm so bad at pronouncing her last name. It's like some French thing. So we filmed it in LA. We found this like little photo studio where you can rent out this like remake of the New York subway and just do whatever you want with it. So I hit her up. She was very down and very on board. So yeah, it cuts between a scene of her holding plants around this like bright house and everything, and it's all these light colors, and then it goes to me in like the deep dark subway, like also holding the same plant, but we both look kind of like depressed and like broken. You know, it shows that, you know, I don't want to put metaphors in other people's heads. I think this video is very much open for interpretation, but I like the idea of having the exact same plants held. Like, this was the seed that we both tried to water and it didn't happen, but we're still going to carry it with us through light and dark. That's like one way to interpret it. There's a million different ways. But dude, that was an ambitious task. We didn't have much of a budget for the plants after you factor in, you know, film crew, lighting and everything. So Aubrey manually at midnight every day would walk to the flower shop on the corner of her street and just steal their flowers, like the day-old ones that they put out to rot, because otherwise it's just like they're gonna rot, and just collected them at her house in the front. And so over 60 days, she got all these flowers and plants, and, you know, she had a couple fake plants as well. Yeah, when filming day came around, you know, we filmed at her house and everything, and then it was about a 30-minute drive to get to the photo studio. And we were gonna take 2 cars, one for all the camera equipment and one for all the plants, because, you know, you wouldn't want to put those two together. But some dickhead decided to park, to like lock her into the driveway, just parked in front of the driveway. So she could not pull out. And her car was the one that was loaded with the plants. And we had only booked 2 hours to film in the subway car studio. So I'm crashing out because I'm like, I am 3,000 miles from home. This is the day that we've booked. I have paid $400 or whatever it was for this studio space. I've had my friend collect all these plants. We've got the film crew here. We've got my friends here to help. This opportunity won't come again. And if it, without me dropping another grand, and some selfish, inconsiderate, insert words here, is double parked, and it's the whole thing. By some divine providence, Aubrey was able to get her car out narrowly within an inch, and we were able to do the shoot. But I was crashing out the whole car ride there. My friends will attest. I felt so bad. I feel like generally, because so many crises tend to happen in the music industry, I've learned how to keep quite a level head. But that just sent me into like a, because like, especially because it's like, it's a concept that meant so much to me, right? Like, and I thought the whole thing was just going to be cooked. Like, it was just going to be me walking around the subway and we're going to have to brainstorm a whole new storyboard. But amazingly, we were able to pull it off. And, you know, I know it's like I was saying before with the like, oh, it's, you know, it's marketing and visions that are so creative, people can't help but talk about it. But I'd argue here, that wasn't even my intention at all. This was just such a personal idea, such a personal vision and aesthetic to me that I wouldn't care if 10 people saw it. And, you know, I wouldn't even say the music video is doing like crazy numbers on YouTube. The song's streaming very well on Spotify, which is nice. But this is one of the first times where a song is so personal to me that I just don't care. You know, like I would have released this exactly how I put it out if there were 3 people listening or 1 person listening. But I'm thankful that people are resonating with it and people are hitting me up, like people are reaching out and DMing me and saying, this clearly came from a place of love and this is helping me through my own dark time. And I'm like, that's all I want to hear, Like, that's incredible. You can do all the crazy, goofy marketing stunts, like throwing a rave on the actual subway. And I've got like a Times Square billboard for Stone Cold, which has been out for a month, but that's going to be out in like 4 days of us recording this podcast or whatever. I think combining those like ridiculous moves with ones that deeply and personally move you is the key to being a true artist, I think, in my heart. So, Street Garden.
All right, so we're going to move into the rapid fire questions here with Jack, and it is currently 103 degrees outside. I don't got the air conditioning on, so we're going to make this rapid, okay? And so,
rapid.
A side quest, completely unrelated. Did you know that we're friends on Nintendo Switch Online stuff? Did you know that?
I have a lot of friends on Nintendo Switch, but that's very possible.
Yeah, man. That's how I found out that you played like 100 hours of Celeste. Is that right?
Yeah. No, I used to speedrun it. Actually, check this out. Actually, it's gonna be really tough with this long sleeve. Anyway, I have a Celeste tattoo right there. I don't feel like going shirtless on this podcast. That's reserved for the Patreon.
I was just gonna say it's for the Patreon.
It's for the Patreon.
So good. Oh, that's so funny. Did you get the Switch too?
No, I haven't yet. It's weird. I love Mario Kart. Obviously, my top tune is Accelerate, and that's a very much Mario Kart inspired tune. But I'm just like, I want to wait till more reviews come in, and I'm just like, I'm not as interested in this one. Like I know they're going for like a cohesive art direction, similar to like Super Mario Wonder and the movie or whatever, but I don't feel like this game's going to be better than 8. And it doesn't, because that's the only thing on the Switch now that isn't on other consoles, like it's not really like selling me yet. I think as soon as they announce a Zelda game, like it's over. But like I'm not super compelled to drop $450 on it yet.
Yeah, I understand. It is fun. Me and my kids have been playing it, just so you know. It's a good time. The free roam is, at least currently, more interesting in theory than in practice because there's not a lot to do in the free roam.
Yeah, I figured. Well, also it's like in Mario Kart, if you go off the tracks, you go slower. So I'm like, do you just like slug around this world? Like, yeah, it sounds awful.
It is fun. I mean, there's like little tasks and things to do. I wish with all my heart, I wish they would have made the free roam like an actual legitimate video game where like you go and you do tasks there. And when you do the task, it unlocks characters or some kind of storyline or something, right? Because right now it really is just, let's just go drive around and see what's there, which is, for some people that's cool, but
Put like Korok seeds in it.
12,000 Korok seeds.
Korok tires. I don't know, right. Like oil changes. I don't know.
That's right. Did you find all the Korok seeds in Breath of the Wild? Did you do that?
I don't have the patience.
Thank
Catalytic converters all around the map.
That's right. Oh my gosh, dude. Oh man. So, okay. Well, we should probably do the rapid fire questions because I could talk all day with video games about video games to you, with you. I'm talking to video games about you. What's going on? It's hot in here. Okay. So here we go. First question we got is, what's an unpopular or controversial opinion that you have about the music industry?
I think it's important when you're playing shows or at least DJ sets to give your personality out. I think a lot of people hate mic talk. A lot of people hate when someone dub delays out a tune and just like says something on the mic. But I think all of my favorite shows outside of EDM have featured some moment like that where the singer or like the front man of a band like chats on the mic about the city. Just like says some inside joke or even just something like cute or nice. Like, yo, thank you so much for coming to my show or whatever. Like, something like that. But I've had so many people come to me specifically and be like, I think you talk on the mic too much. And I'm like, no, I don't think I do. I think people remember my show more because I've said some stupid shit on the mic. And if you've gotten this far in the podcast, I could say some stupid. I played Lightbringer like every stop on a tour I did 2 years ago with Chime. And I every single night without fail, I'd go past the mic and be like, yo, if you beat the Ocarina of Time Water Temple, this one goes to you. And I'd immediately go into it. It's just like, it's nerdy and geeky, but like, that's the type of shit people remember. But I've seen so many just like jaded DJs being like, oh, you're not honoring the art form. It's like, shut up. My unpopular opinion is that elitism in DJing is ridiculous. DJing is so functional. You can get good at it in about 3 weeks. Like, stop being elitist about it. That's the short answer, in my opinion. If you want to trim everything I just said.
That's a great answer. I think elitism in anything is stupid.
I can almost see the elitism more in production. Obviously, I don't believe in it. If anyone's watched any of my like tutorials, you'll see a lot of what I do is like sound design wise. It's just like I set up a system, like a serum patch into like a processing chain and just generates a bunch of cool. And then I like sequence it into the DAW. And then I have people that are like renowned for like these phase perfect mix downs hitting me up like, yo, how'd you do that? That's insane. But then they're the same people going out and being like, if you don't know exactly how to operate an EQ to generate this sound, you're not really sound designing. It's like that type of dumb. But I almost understand that a little bit more because like congratulations, you've figured out like the science of audio. That's something I envy. That's something I don't have the patience for. That's something that sucks out the fun of music for me. But I can admire your skill and I can admire your talent in this thing. With DJing, why? You know, like, why? You're pressing play on tunes and mixing the other one in. And yes, there's ways to do that are better than others. But to like on the ones that are taking the easier routes, it just doesn't matter at all to me. Like, what?
Next question we got is, what's one of the most useless things you spent money on for your music career?
I saw Austin talked about this as well, actually, on your guys' podcast. But a couple of years ago, I got really peer pressured to buy a couple of like, you know, hardware compressor emulations. And I think I've used them about twice ever. And it's just like, whoa. There's a plugin called The Glue by Cytomic, which I think actually is good. Like it's an actually like considerably better enough that it's worth purchasing. But honestly, like, the stock FL compressor or stock whatever your DAW compressor is probably going to get the job done. Focus on saturators. That's where you're really going to get the different flavors. I can tell you the difference between Fruity Wave Shaper and Decapitator. Both good. I use both of them all the time. I can't tell you the difference between the ATX 300 and the Cytomic, the Glue. You know, like, come on.
You listened to that interview with Austin, so you know my stance on that. Thank goodness there's more people actually just saying that. At the end of the day, it's like, what are we doing? Like, we're splitting hairs. You know what I mean? It's like taking a hex code of a color and you shift one shade a little bit. It's insane that it's a different color now. It's like, my guy, that is the same color. Like
it's like I'm a big fan of like using unconventional methods to get the same results that you would. I think you can come to a lot of sound design epiphanies from that. I think you can come to a lot of compositional epiphanies from that, and it makes you a better songwriter. But once you paywall that by more than $200, I think you're kind of just ripping people off.
The inverse of that question is, what's one of the best things you spent money on for your music career?
I mean, the obvious answer is FL Studio. You're just taking the first plunge. I mean, lifetime free updates is crazy. But I think in terms of like a more specialty thing that I've invested in, I think upgrading to open backs really did make a difference. And I was like a hater for a while. You know, I was like, most of my favorite producers use the ADHD-M50s that like everyone and their mother owns, right? And I had some of the like tech heady people all being like, oh, but open backs are better. And I'm like, come on, like, what do you want about? Like, they can't possibly be better. They're like, oh, but there's more room for the air to move around. And I thought it was the same deal as the compressors, where it's just like holistically placebo and some like corporate gaslighting to get people to spend more money on a thing that they already have. But when I got these headphones, the first thing about this was I started to notice my mixdowns sounded amazing everywhere except my car. And like, my car, I drive a 2006 Honda Pilot. The system's like, it's terrible. It's awful, you know? Everything is mono. It collapses everything to mono and it manually pans it left, right? So a lot of people were just kind of telling me, oh, well, you know, your car just sounds bad. You shouldn't be in your head about your mix sounding bad there. But I'm like, nah, dude, because if I can get my to sound dope in this car, then it sounds good everywhere. And I noticed like my headphones just weren't cutting it. You know, the mono, there was too much low end in them, and I wasn't getting a clear perception of the low end dynamics. So I actually reached out to some tech heads for help, and I got these Sennheiser HD360s. They're like $300, whereas the ATH-M50s are like $150 or whatever. Within like 2 weeks of hearing like what actual low end dynamics sound like, my mix downs improved in the car like that. And like now I'm confident in my mixes everywhere. So this was like an incredible purchase. ATH M50s are also like notoriously hard to fix. I think I went through like 5 pairs because I've been using those I used them from like 2018 to 2023. But since switching to these, like I've had no problems. These cables have fallen out on multiple occasions, but you always plug it in and it still works fine. They haven't degraded one bit. The low end is clearer than you could imagine. I can still, and like this is like a totally like me focused benefit, but like when I have people knocking on my door, I used to like not be able to hear them. So they'd like tap my shoulder and I go, ah, you know, like, but now it's like I hear them coming because they're open back. Like they're just, I'll shill these forever. They're incredible.
What's a plugin or music production software you can't live without?
Recently, Edison. Well, actually, always Edison. It comes with FL. This is the primary reason I haven't switched to Ableton. Yes, I know it's an objectively better DAW with more like infinite mixer tracks and it's easier to do parallel processing. But because, and I realize also you can get Edison technically in Ableton, but the reason I'll never switch from FL is because Edison is so seamlessly just like implanted into the DAW. I can literally, what I've been doing recently, I'll put Edison on my master. I'll just click random, like I'll type in shaker, let's say, for example, and I'll just click on random shakers in my like sample browser and it'll record me clicking around them. So you gotta or whatever. And then I can just drag that into a sampler or like a Slice X, immediate drum machine. I just saved myself 15 minutes, you know, like bam, easy. Also you can, when you're doing kind of generative sound design jams, you can press spacebar and it will capture the tails as well as the main sound. So oftentimes, let's say I want to cut a bass short or get like different variations of a bass. Instead of going like a ja, 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 I can get like ja, ja, and maybe like the reverb will swing out so I can like start it at a slightly different position. It's just like, it's incredible. It simplifies everything. And it's so seamlessly implanted in the DAW. In the top right corner, you can just click things and drag them immediately into your playlist, and it's just it's amazing.
Is that the main holdout to Ableton? Like, if there was a fully functioning Edison, internal Edison working essentially the same way inside of Ableton, would you jump ship and go to Ableton?
I think out of pride, I probably wouldn't. No, I mean, I'm also just so familiar with all the FL Studio shortcuts that I'm just a machine in the DAW. And I also just like, I remember, because I went to college for like a semester for music production. I finished an associate's degree at like a local community college in like multimedia marketing stuff. It's a little out of date, but you know, it's still just nice to have the paper for me. It's like peace of mind for like a backup. But when I was there, people clowned on me for using FL. Or like when I was applying to school, they were like, oh, you're in FL? Yeah, the industry doesn't really use that. You should learn Ableton or Pro Tools. So I hear those voices in my head every time I get a sync into Rocket League, every time that I play a show, every time I score a collab with like a Slender or a Ty Dolla $ign, I hear those voices in my head like, oh, real people in the industry don't use this DAW. So like for that reason, I think I'm going to continue using it.
Bro, that's a legendary response. You have to close the email for the Rocket League sync in order to open up the email saying that FL isn't a real DAW. Like, dude, that's oh, that's so good. Okay, and then the inverse to that question is, you know, what's a plugin or music production software that you think is just totally overrated?
Waves plugins. I love their auto-tune. I love their auto-tune to death, and I recognize their innovation within the music industry. They were the first plugin to make a lot of hardware emulations back when hardware was the only thing that people knew. That said, I think their subscription model is bullshit. Their use of iLok is borderline unethical, and I think there are plugins that are far cheaper that get the job done in a much more creative way. You know, look at Sound Toys, for example. They've also been around for like a similar amount of time, but they have plugins that I genuinely think you can only get from Sound Toys. Whereas like Waves, they're going to charge you $200 for an EQ or a compressor with a worse UI than the one you can get for $100 from, I don't know, Cytomic or some like small plugin company, right? But I still see them used everywhere. Anyway, that's my answer. I do like their autotune. However, their autotune's goated. So like They got something right.
Dude, the comment about the eye lock. Man, I'm convinced that when the Netflix series about R. Kelly and the one about the dude at Nickelodeon, when those all fade to black, we're going to get another documentary about eye lock. And it's going to talk about how everyone hates them. And it's, like you said, it's like borderline unethical. It's just such a pain in the butt. But I understand. I get it. I understand piracy. I get it. Like, I understand. And what are we doing? Why is it so bad?
It's great when there's like a really necessary thing to make things functional, but it was made in 2007 and just wasn't updated. I feel the same way about BMI, by the way, which sucks because that's one of the key ways that you earn money as a musician, you know, publishing, right? But publishing is like run on 1930s tech. It's like, come on. There's no reason you should have to register your tunes like 3 months before you see the money from it. Like, what are we on? I can go on Instagram right now and get overstimulation overload with HD 4K footage of AI generated brain rot, which took 20 seconds to generate, right? But to see $50 for a song that I put out a while ago, I've got to wait 3 months. What?
You go to BMI headquarters and it's running off of steam power. Bonus question, you know, is there some kind of feature in another DAW that you just wish FL would bring into FL?
Yes, loads. I think I want there to be infinite mixer tracks. I think they're working on that. I saw like someone posted like a beta with that. But more so, I like Patcher. I think there's an easier way to do like parallel processing. I think you like in Ableton, you know how you can like do like a low mid split, but like continue the effects chain within each one and then like consolidate them, or like just generally like parallel splitting, right? You can do that in FL and Patcher, but there really should be like a native easy way to do that. I think it would save a lot of time. Actually, I've been taking a couple lessons recently from other artists. You never stop improving. Like, I know people look up to me a lot as like someone who knows it all, but like I don't, you know. So I like sometimes refreshing my brain. I say like once every 2 months or something, I'll just pick an artist that I really with and just hit them up for a lesson. And I learned all about doing like saturation just on the sides. It's like it's 2 clicks in Ableton to do that. But for FL, you need to like set up a whole patcher and then separate it with like a Pro Q3, and then just the sides are being affected by it. It's like, there's no reason it should be that difficult. And like, yes, it's really only EDM where you need these kind of levels of technical things, but like when other DAWs have it, like, come on.
Jack, we've made it all the way to the end. Everyone's been dying to know, what is one of the best decisions that you made for your music career?
I think one of the best decisions I've made for my music career was signing on with management when I did. And I'm not saying that as in like, oh, my management made my career, but I had a couple of offers beforehand from like seedy, shady, sketchy people. But they were like, that would have these high promises, but you could tell they didn't have their heart in it. I think I could have been in a very different place. I think I could have been very depressed, and I could have been would have been on much different terms with my parents for doing music full time. I would have, you know, not had my education finished if I had followed some of these, you know, fake promises and whatever. I think waiting for my current manager, Landon Fleury, to reach out to me after I did a couple of remix opportunities for him, after I had fostered a genuine relationship with him and, you know, knew his other clients somewhat personally, I think waiting for that was the best decision of my life. Because I remember, I'm not going to name any names, but in like 2019, I had this really predatory dude that was my age. It's like, drop out of high school, move with me to Colorado. We're going to make your career crazy. We're going to pitch you to NCS. We're going to pitch you to Monster Scout. What are your goals in 4 years? Just like bombarding me with these things. And it's like, at that point, I was still like, 16, like a high school kid. I'm like, bro, I don't even know what my goal is in 2 years. Like I want to get on Monster Cat someday. Like, you know, he was just really seedy about it. And like, you know, like, let's do the American dream, and just not calculated at all, really pushy. I was in a bit of a vulnerable state at that point because, you know, whatever. I mean, you're 16 years old, like whatever. But I said no to that, and he really like was like, oh, that's really disappointing. Like really pushy and pressury and predatory. But when my manager came along, it was so chill. It was like, was like, hey, I have this remix to do. I have this remix opportunity. It might get on Monstercat, it might not, but this is still like a way to get your music in new people's ears. So I did that with great work ethic. And then he's like, hey, you did so good on the last one. Do you want to do this one? So I did that, and he admired my work ethic, and he was managing Azor at this time, who had just gotten his first release on Circus Records and just signed something with Disciple. So I started to see like real results from this guy, right, in real time. And then he reaches out to me and says, I love your work ethic. You're clearly a kid with a vision and a level of dedication that I admire. I'd love to take you under my wing. If we'll do this gentleman's agreement style for a while, no contracts, but I just believe in your project and I want to see the best for you. And so that level of low pressureness felt so much better. And signing on with him, I've gone on to release with Monstercat, do all of the things that this other guy promised me. If I ran away with him right then and there to Denver, it's now or never, you know, giving me all these promises. I did all those things. And I have a great relationship with my girlfriend. I have a great relationship with my parents. I have a great relationship with my craft. I'm touring. I'm playing festivals. We're playing some headline shows. Like, I'm living my dream life. So that was the best decision I made, waiting. The best opportunity isn't going to be waving in your face like, do this now or you're screwed. You know, the best opportunities are going to come when you put in good work ethic, when you're moral, when you're interested in your artwork. That's going to act like a magnet. Success attracts. One of my favorite quotes from Skrillex. He says, you don't chase success, you attract it. That's my advice. That's my best decision, I think.
That was fantastic advice, and I don't have anything to add to that. And so, great job. Is there any final words you want to say? Yes, there are final words that you want to say. You have the collab of a lifetime. No one knew that we needed this collab. You got a collab with Slander and Ty Dolla $ign. What is going on, man? And what multiverse crossover do we got going on? Tell us more about it.
No, it's quite a send off. It's pretty wild. I mean, a couple of years ago, in 2021, I was on a bit of an ego trip, and Disciple had just signed my six tunes, like Waterfall, the Parachute remix, and my Lumina EP. So I was like, oh, I'm top of the world. I can do anything. So we tried to pitch to the big M, the big Monstercat, and they rejected everything, and it kind of shattered my little ego. But we were like, okay, well, you know, let's pivot. Let's maybe send this to Heaven Sent, because Slander had just opened this new melodic label. So I sent them 6 songs, which turned into Unity EP and Clear Sky, which I ended up releasing with UKF instead. But they took it. They were really lovely. You know, they clearly believed in my project. They were playing out Satellite, I think, at some point. And, you know, they gave me my first ever show in Tacoma. It's really funny. This is like a jokes flex. My first ever show was at the Tacoma Dome, the 15,000 capacity venue in Seattle. And I played at doors to my manager and like my internet friend in a venue like the size of my town. Like ridiculous. But it's okay. People spilled in and it was live streamed, and, you know, it opened the door for a lot of things. And they were just like the first large act to like support me. So a few years have passed. I started growing my project a little bit more. I was just working on a couple different melodic dubstep sketches. It was like what I was inspired by. And, you know, I sent one over. I feel like with these larger artist collabs, I don't know who's listening to this podcast or whatever, but when you work with an artist that's just like you big, like there's like me big, and then the next tier is Austin big, and then there's like you big. It's less you can just safely assume you're casting your tune out into the void. So don't send them something you're like insanely emotionally attached to immediately. So I just cast this tune out into the void. It's just like a melodic dubstep sketch that I like. I never expected it to come out. I just kind of wanted the like optics of like being able to like go around like shoulders high. Oh yeah, I got to collab with Slander. Like, oh, when's it coming out? I don't know, but I got to collab with Slander. You know, like whatever. But they took a great liking to it. They were working with this writer dude at the time. So he wrote like a top line. Typically, I write my own top lines, so I was a little at first like okay, but you know, I really loved the results. The song, it's called Ever Again. It's all about, you know, just love that's like bad for you, but you can't like help but fall for it. It's something I guess I personally would have related to in the past, but you know, I don't know. I'm currently so in love with my partner that like it's not. I don't feel it entirely, but like it still was emotionally resonant enough with me that I was like, okay, this is fine. And so they asked me to give them a list of vocalists I wanted to work with. And I had written the original song around the acapella of Hollow by Dabin, Kaiwachi, and Low Spirit, which is like this emo kind of acapella. I love that tune. It's such a banger. But they, so I sent them over like a couple of my favorite like band frontmen, you know, like vocalists from indie bands I like, a couple of shoegazy vocalists, a few like emo vocalists. I'm like, oh, no. Like, this writer's like him, you know, think like Justin Bieber level. I'm like, no, you're kidding. I'm just going to leave this to you guys because, like, I don't know what you guys are cooking. So a couple months passed by. I was having like a quiet evening. I think I was kind of like down, like a mood or whatever. I got a call from 2 a.m. EST from Derek from Slander on the phone. Yo, when can you be in LA next? I'm like, oh, well, you know, you guys booked me for Starbase, so I'm going to be there in April. And they're like, no, like, you got to be here soon. I'm like soon? It's like, we just got back vocals from Ty Dolla $ign. You think you can finish the tune in March? Like, come here. I flew out there in March, a month before Starbase, and, you know, they were just so hospitable. I worked at their studio in Los Angeles with them, and we polished up the tune in one day. And it was fantastic. I tend to work pretty quickly in the DAW. And then, yeah, they like literally invited Ty out at Starbase. And so we have all this sick footage of us all on stage performing the tune together at the headline slot with like full pyro and fireworks. And it's just, I don't know, like I was very conflicted at first with this kind of tune because I was like, oh, this is such a larger than life collab. Like, what if my emotional resonance somehow gets lost in this, but this becomes like my biggest tune that I have to play forever? But that's so not what happened. You know, I followed my intuition through the process of making the song, and Derek and Scott have always been big believers in my project. So this song feels very me, even though it's Ty telling the story and some other writer doing the thing. And it's like, I'm really excited about it. Like it's a song that I genuinely love, that I also think has immense commercial potential and appeal. And I think it's rare for the stars to align like that. Both my inner child and my business brain are satisfied with this song. And that's really rare and good. And I have a lot of thank yous to give to Derek and Scott for this opportunity. And of course, you know, the man, the myth, the legend, Ty. It was funny when I met him at Starbase. He had no idea who I was because obviously I'm the little kid, the nerdy ADHD kid that, you know, made the initial sketch, right? So I'm like, oh my God, like it's good to meet you. And he's like, yeah.
Dude, you pulled a God pack on that one.
You know, I feel like I pulled the God pack through good work ethic and fostering a relationship with artists that believed in me because what I was doing was genuinely cool to them. Like, I think this could have gone very differently. I could have completely sold my soul, written, you know, the most milquetoast melodic dubstep song I possibly could, like lost all my style. Maybe they would have still liked it. But I think there was something special about this tune because it's still so me. And I think they saw that, and they saw my desire to be authentic while still not necessarily conforming, but keeping their formula and their preferences in mind. And yeah, I love the tune. I'm very excited for it to drop.
So everyone, please go check out his album. It is out now. Again, we have the week anniversary. Happy anniversary, Jack. And when's the collab come out? Does that come out with the album?
No, it doesn't. It's going to come out in a couple months at this point. We're just finalizing some stuff.
You're crushing it, dude. You're doing fantastic. Is there any final words you want to say before we wrap up?
No, I think we're all good. I feel like it's a good quality end to the podcast. Thank you for having me. That was it's a lot of fun. Very cathartic getting some of these thoughts out there into the world. And I appreciate you giving me the platform and to talk about album stuff, some artistic philosophy. And, you know, I want to end with this as well. Over COVID, you know, obviously I was a high school kid. I was supposed to graduate in 2020. I did, but I didn't graduate in the correct way. I missed my prom. I missed all the like high school senior experiences, but as a result, I had 16 hours a day to produce. So I did. And every night I would fall asleep to a Behind the DAW video. I'm not even joking. I'd put it on. I would literally put it on and just like subconsciously absorb the information. And then I'd watch it sentient as well. But it was a nice thing to doze off to because it was so boring. No, I mean, because it was so, so informative. And I'd like to think that a lot of the things that I've learned came from just the little things I'd hear before I dozed off, and then obviously watching it again sentient, you know? I think it's really great what you've done for the community. The amount of free content you guys have released for young producers and producers like myself. Like, I would not be here without your guys' content. I'd probably be still doing a comp sci degree, you know? But you guys helped me skip so many steps and get myself into like the right artistic mindset. And it's like, it's an honor to be like on the podcast now, sharing my own stuff. So thanks for that, dude.
Yeah, man, you're going to make my sweat turn into tears. Like that is, that is amazing. Bro. Dude, you're awesome. We'll cut it off right there. But thank you so much, man. That means the world to me. And it's just to see your success. You've grown up. I've watched you grow up. That sounds so creepy, Donation. Don't take that. Don't clip that. Don't put that out there.
I've watched you grow up.
But no, dude, I'm so proud of the man that you've become. And anyways, you're awesome, dude.
Thank you, bro. I appreciate that.
Hope you enjoyed that episode of Behind the DAW with Skybreak. And I noticed it became to my attention. Became very apparent to me that you have not grabbed that free download yet. Make sure to go down in the description to get the free download from Skybreak, or head on over to donation.net/ what the heck is it called? Star Cannon. That's what it is. Donation.net/ Star Cannon. And while you're there, while you're in the vicinity of the links in the description, you should check out the School Bass by 85. Learn his sound design system. Took him 15 years to learn it. Said all that in one breath. That's worth at least checking out. Okay, so go to the link down in the description or go to donation.net/ School of Bass. Donation, it's like 110 degrees outside. It is literally 115 degrees outside. 137 degrees. It is so hot in here. And I'm doing this for you, and it's wonderful. It's fantastic. Oh, wait, stop. Don't leave yet. Stop it. Go hit the subscribe button right now. Listen, I know what you're thinking. You gotta go get stuff done, listen to another podcast, work on another song. I get it. I do. Stop it. Take a couple of seconds. Go hit subscribe. Leave a comment. Leave a like. Tell me what you learned from this. Tell me what you liked. I'd love to hear from you. Send me an email. Draw me a picture. Macaroni art is the worst form of art, so don't do that. Okay, now I can say goodbye. I love you guys. See ya.